Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right. Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right. Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics and Run. Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you, as usual. Folks, I gotta admit, though, I'm sleepy. This is the first day in this week that I hadn't ridden my bike early in the morning, got up early in the morning to ride. And I'm still sleepy. Actually, though, what's happening is we're burning from two sides of the candle, from the middle of the candle, and from everything else. Anyhow, thank you guys for being here. Welcome aboard. We have a lot to talk about. And we also have a telephone number, 346-248-7799. Again, that is 346-248-7799. The ID to get in is 254-600-9091. And that is also on the header for the blog post for the program. But I think what I better do is I better go ahead and also put that guy inside of the chat. So what I'm going to do as we speak is throw all the Zoom information that you can either call via the link or call directly in to the show. If you want to say something, if you have anything that you want to put out there, lo que quieres hacer, we are here to support you. Anyhow, today we have a great program for you. The title of the show today is, Trump admits holding America hostage, suffering in silence. Democrats must be shouting. Okay, let's see. You tried sharing your post from FB, wouldn't let me, said didn't have permission. Really? I think the show is global, so you should have permission to share it. See, Facebook does a whole lot of things. I get all these kinds of messages. Oh, we can't share, we can, all that good stuff. And that hurts our viewership. Try again, Breach. Try again to go ahead and just go ahead and click the share button and see if it'll get better later on. But everybody should have access to sharing this program. Anyhow, folks, if you're just joining us, please share us to your wall. Breach, try sharing it to your wall first if it were somewhere else that you were sharing it to. Anyway, folks, if you're just joining us, I ask you so kindly to please share the program because, we want everybody informed. Anyhow, before I get into the show, actually, I ran across this story. I ran across it a couple of days ago. Then it showed up again today on NPR. And I said, you know what, let me go ahead and present this guy to you guys and tell me what you think about this. Here we go. Florida sheriff orders deputies and staff not to wear face masks. Oh, Breach, by the way, are you go ahead and go to facebook.com/politicsdoneright and make sure to like the page. And after you like the page, tell me if it still gives you an issue. Anyhow, the story that I have on the screen right now. Florida sheriff orders deputies and staff not to wear face masks. For you that are listening on podcasts, the sheriff in Central Florida COVID-19 hotspot has issued, again, it's a hotspot. He has issued a directive prohibiting deputies, staff, and visitors to department offices from wearing protective face masks. An order that came as a local mayor and city council squared off a mask ordinance for business. In other words, the city council wants to have people wear face masks. They also, so they're doing their job. And here is the enforcer of the law, the sheriff, that goes ahead and says now, oh, I'm sorry, you guys are not allowed to wear masks in this building. Marion County Sheriff Billy Wood sent an email Tuesday informing approximately 900 people working in the department that when you are on duty working as my employee, listen to how he's talking, as my employee and representing my office, masks will not be worn. The Ocala Star reports. Now, he's talking about my employees. No. Our employees. It's a city who actually pays their salaries, and you are just an elected official who should be following the requirements or following what they're asking you to do. You're not God, and that is a problem many times with police officers, with the law enforcers. Woods added that effective immediately, any individual walking in any one of our lobbies, which includes the main office and all district offices that is wearing a mask, will be asked to remove it. In other words, he's willing to throw people's lives in danger. This is the right-wing Republican thinking that I'm talking about. Here in Kingwood, Texas, we have parents that want to send their kids to school instead of having them do learning until we reduce the level of infection in the virus. Because that's just what they want. Leadership from the top, from a president that is utterly incapable of doing the job, convincing otherwise people that should be considering themselves fairly intelligent that they just want to maintain their freedom and do that. So here, the reason I'm bringing this up, this is an example of the cancer that's going through this country. In that light, the current events when it comes to the sentiment and or hatred toward law enforcement in our country today, this is being done to ensure there is clear communication and for identification purposes of any individual walking into the lobby. Yeah, right. Let's see. Masticator says, and yet Hidalgo can unconditionally require masks, and that is A-okay to Egberto. Absolutely so, because in this case, she is protecting the lives of others. He is saying, I want to enforce you putting the lives of others in danger. She is saying the diametrically opposite thing from what this guy is saying. Completely opposite. We can debate and argue all day of why and why not. Woods added, the fact is the amount of professionals that give the reasons why we should, I can find the exact same amount of professionals that say why we shouldn't. And that is utterly false. So we have, but then again, that is something we're sure about these police officers and sheriffs. The one thing they have in common with Donald Trump is they have always been consistent liars. You pick up a police report, and you pick up any police report any given day, and what you find in that police report is that it's a amalgamation of lies. An amalgamation of lies, because that is what they're good at. They make an arrest, they lie. In fact, they said that George Floyd died of natural causes. George Floyd had an event. They didn't say the event that George Floyd had came from sitting on his back and choking him. The original report didn't say that. Marion County, with a population of about 370,000, has had nearly 6,800 continued coronavirus cases since the start of the pandemic, with 104 deaths. Marion reported a single-day record deaths, 13 deaths on Tuesday, county officials said, according to the Star Banner. 43 sheriff's office employees, including several patrol officers, and more than 200 inmates in the county have tested positive for the virus. This is the reason why it doesn't matter if you are too progressive to like Biden and Harris. That's fine. But this is existential. This is existential. You have killers in office right now. I'm not saying that to be hyperbolic. We have killers in office, from the sheriffs to the police to the president. Let's be clear on that. We have killers in office. And how do you justify that statement, Egberto? You justify that statement by saying a police officer police officers that continues to get quite a few people killed, and nobody comes back and says, yes, he was wrong for doing that. A president that continues to say, no matter what, just go to school. Signing the death warrants of many fellow Americans. So if you want to know why it is essential that we have a blowout in November, and not only the president and the vice president, but the senators, but the congresspersons, plus the houses and senates in every single state, we have to have a clean wipeout. We have to get rid of the cancer that is polluting the average American citizen. Good people falling for the narrative that's coming out of these think tanks for conservatives who lie to them and make them no better than sycophants, not only for a president, but for an ideology. But at the same time, we have to keep the space open to bring them into the fold. All right. I mentioned that about cops being, these cops, etc. Then again, I see another article, right? NPR again. And what is the title? Wrong article, but it was, I think it was, confidence in police is at record low, Gallup survey finds. I wonder why. You have a sheriff that is saying, I am willing to have people killed. Think about that. I am willing to have people killed for my ideology. You have governors, you have all these groups of people that in as much as the science is clear, saying that. No wonder confidence in police is at a record low. Here it goes. This one is from the New York Times. Amid waves of civil unrest, as protesters across the country continue to demonstrate against police brutality, Americans' confidence in the police has dropped to a record low, according to a Gallup poll released on Wednesday. The survey conducted by, and this is for our podcasters, the survey conducted by Gallup from early June to mid-July found the confidence in police had fallen 5 points to 48% from that year. Gallup, which started tracking the public's confidence in a range of public institutions in 1973 during the Watergate scandal, adding the police in 1993, said this was the first time in the 27-year trend that this reading is below the majority. Hello, Rose. And you know what? This is all justified. If you don't understand the rationale behind why the confidence in police officers is there, it should be quite evident now. We've had story after story about police reports not being the reality of what folks have on video. In other words, they lie, they lie, they lie. But again, and who do they generally like? Donald Trump. And what is Donald Trump famous for again? Lying. So we have to start getting rid of these cancers. We have to start making sure that these people are held accountable. If you lie on a police report, you should go to jail, because you should have the utmost confidence of the population if you are supposed to enforce the laws for the population. So I think it is imperative going forward that all police chiefs let their police officers know lying on a police report is punishment by jail time, and not only jail time, but by getting rid of you as a police officer. And then we can start cleaning up the scourge that they are, the people that goes out there and kill and maim quite a lot of our citizens. I'm not saying we don't need them. We need good police officers for the criminals on the street. We do. Yes, Brige, we need to get rid of qualified immunity. But we need good police officers on the streets. What we don't need are the goons that are nothing more than criminals with a badge, a gun, and the legal authority to kill. Not because you have a badge and you kill means you're not a criminal. Most of those officers who kill, in my very humble opinion, they're assassins. And if you doubt it, I mean, a lot of people were doubting when we spoke about these issues for years upon years upon years, until recently the cameras came out and they were able to see what many have had to suffer at the hands of these people who call themselves the law enforcement of America. ATL checking in. I'll salute all my people in a little bit. Let's go ahead and get busy with the program. Okay. So I said the program title, Trump admits holding America hostage, suffering in silence. Democrats must be shouting. Trump called into Fox News and said it. He will hold up the stimulus unless the U.S. mail money is removed. This is far-reaching, and we discuss implications. Think about this. He wants to go ahead and take the money out of the post office. He doesn't care about them removing the federal building the FBI building that he wants to put in the bill so his hotel can make more money. More important to him is holding on to office, and he thinks by crippling the post office during a pandemic, he can do it. He can do it. That's what he's thinking. He can do it. All right. Well, guess what, folks? Guess what? We don't have to ask or think, did he really mean what he said? I'll show you later. Anyhow, Trump is holding America hostage. Donald Trump is trying his best to rig the election via the post office. Americans are suffering in silence. And this is point number 2. Americans are suffering in silence, and it is clear that the new depression will not be televised. That's why we have to talk about it, because it's not going to be televised. Now, Democrats need to establish a new paradigm in campaigning. I want to talk about that. What's that new paradigm? Get in front of every piece of media live. Important. And, of course, with our friend Kamala Harris, I think is how it's said, the misogyny has begun. The misogyny has begun. Anyhow, I want you to listen to this, and then we'll take it on the other side. What Donald Trump is doing is really immoral. And the reality is the outcomes of what he's doing is likely going to cause the deaths of many Americans. And that then, given that we know what's going to happen, should really be considered premeditated murder. I want you to listen to this and see exactly how a president that cares nothing about the citizens but only about himself thinks. Check this out.
You know, there's nothing wrong with getting out and voting. You get out and vote. They voted during World War I and World War II. 2 of the items are the post office and the $3.5 billion for mail-in voting. Now, if we don't make a deal, that means they don't get the money. That means they can't have universal mail-in voting. If we don't make a deal, that means they don't get the money. That means they can't have universal mail-in voting.
Understand what he's saying there. I am willing to make many Americans starve. I'm willing to make many Americans lose their homes. I'm willing to ensure that most or a large percentage of Americans aren't able to live a life because there are no jobs out there, so they are in dire straits. I don't care about that. If you don't stop asking for money for the United States Postal Service to deliver the ballots, to ensure they can deliver your ballots in a timely manner, I am willing to allow Americans to starve. I am willing to allow Americans to live in dire straits. That is what he's saying. Remember, these guys have no empathy. They cannot feel for the rest of America. They cannot feel for what's going on with a lot of people and what's going to come tumbling down for those that are in dire straits right now. Because if you are having an issue right now, because of the way economics work, rest assured, that is going to be a whole bunch of dominoes falling down, and a lot of folks that are living just fine right now will find themselves in the same position. Donald Trump is an immoral president, a president that is injuring the citizenry, and it is time to get him to hell out of there. It is time to get him to hell out of there. Before I forget, folks, please don't forget, our book is out. It's worth it. How to talk to your right-wing relatives, friends, and neighbors. It's worth it. How to talk to your right-wing relatives, friends, and neighbors. You can go ahead and get the book. I have it inside of the link on the top of the blog post, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw the link inside of the feed as well. But please go ahead and get the book. You know, you guys did something great yesterday. Enough of you purchased the book day before yesterday, actually. Enough of you purchased a book day before yesterday, both hard copies and a Kindle version, so that I made it on the 100 list in the political science department of Amazon. And it was like, yoo-hoo, we did it, we did it, we did it. But then this morning I woke up and we went from 90-something down to 134. So we dropped out of their top 100 list, which means people will have a harder time finding us. So I want to ask you guys again, una vez más, thank you so kindly. Go ahead and share this link and tell folks, hey, support a good book that is out there. Support a good book that is out there that is talking about conciliation between peoples and talking about how we got things done and how we can talk to each other. Please do. It is so important that I get a whole lot of these books out there. So please, if you're just joining us, my new book is out. It's worth it. How to talk to your right-wing relatives, friends, and neighbors. It's worth it. Please go ahead and get yourself a copy. Those of you that are listening, you know what? If you're listening and don't know where, he called that book, just go to egbertowillies.com/ I think it's /mybooks. Let me go ahead and pull that up real quick. egbertowillies.com. I'm going to tell you that link in a minute so that those of you that are actually listening on the podcast can see it, because I really want to get back into that 100 so that we can get enough of these books sold. We can keep Politics Done Right and all those and all these things pretty active. Hey, website is slow, so I guess I better move on. They've been having some problems at our web hosting, evidently, all these servers that they have out there. Anyhow, so going back to the program at hand. So as you can see, what he's trying to do is he's trying to hurt folks at the post office. And today there was an article that came out, a very important article that came out on, I think is it Vox or one of them? Vox? Which one is it? I believe it is, and I had pulled it up because I wanted to show you guys the report, but it seems like I have lost it. Oh, there we go. Here we go. The post office is deactivating. Let me put that on the screen so you guys can see that one, because it's an important article. The post office is deactivating mail sorting machines ahead of the election. And here's what's so scary. The United States Postal Office is removing mail sorting machines from facilities around the country without any official explanation or reason given. Motherboard has learned through interviews with postal workers and union officials. In many cases, these are the same machines that would be tasked with sorting ballots, calling into question promises made by Postmaster General Louis Deloy that the USPS has ample capacity to handle the predicted surge in mail-in ballots. Motherboard identified 19 mail sorting machines. That's a lot, because these machines do hundreds of thousands of mail pieces every day, right? Motherboard identified 19 mail sorting machines from 5 processing facilities across the U.S. that either have already been removed or are scheduled to be in the near future. But the Postal Service operates hundreds of distribution facilities around the country, so it is not clear precisely how many machines are getting removed and for what purpose. Check it out. Even to local union official, USPS has not announced any policy, explained why they are doing this, what will happen to the machines and the workers who use them, nor has management provided a rationale for dismantling and removing the machines from the facility rather than merely not operating them when they're not needed. I am not sure you're going to find an answer for why the machines are being removed makes sense, said Iowa Postal Worker Union President Kimberly Carroll, because we haven't figured that out either. So it is an orchestrated deconstruction of USPS that they're doing right now. And what the one thing that we can do about this right now is to go ahead. You know, that is a very good question, Rose. Where are they being removed to? I don't know. And that is where, you know, we have folks that query a lot of the union workers, because there's certain kind of some information that union workers generally get. Well, even the union worker does not understand why. While the consequences of this new policy are mostly unclear for now, it neatly fits with the sudden, opaque, and drastic changes made by Deloy, a longtime Republican fundraiser and Trump donor, in the less than 2 months he's been Postmaster General. Like this, other changes, including the curtailing of overtime, resulting in widespread mail delays. And today, Russell Honore, the general that saved New Orleans, was on, and he said, even his medicine he can't get his medicine on time. He has to jump in his car and go directly to the drugstore to get it, which also means it's going to cost him more money. And notice all these things that I'm talking about, right? These are things that you hear here and there on TV, you hear here and there in the news, etc., etc., etc. But it's deeper. And I like what Honore said. Honore said, this stuff is not just affecting the election. It is affecting people's livelihood, and it's affecting people's pocketbooks. And we're going to talk about that when I start to talk about what I think Democrats should be doing. So remember that. Remember all these things that Trump is doing, claiming just to mess up the election. But in the process, it does a whole lot of other things as well. Anyhow, the other story, new jobless claims dipped below 1 million. And the president is hurraying about that. Are you kidding me? Think about this, people. It's barely under $1 million. I mean, a million jobs, new people seeking jobs. But what they don't tell you is the cumulative effect of all those people who have lost jobs. You know why? Because they just want the number. They want to say something is good, it's happening. What they don't say is this is just a decrease in the increase of unemployment. Repeating, this is nothing more than the decrease in the rate of increase of unemployment. And what does that really mean? Unemployment is still increasing. We're at over 15 point something million people collecting those checks, just the unemployment checks, not the other stuff. But they want you to believe everything is okay, and they try to spin it in such a manner. We're going to talk about this again when we're talking about Democrats and the new paradigm, because it's important. It's so important that we do that. Okay, folks, we're taking calls if you want to call in. 346-248-7799. The code is 254-600-9091. And I'm going to move on if I don't get any calls in for that. If anybody wants to call and add to the discussion beforehand, we can. All right. So we covered Trump trying to rig the election with his messing with the post office. We've covered that what's occurring with the rate We've covered the law person. All of these things are individual issues, right? But what we have to learn to do as Democrats, and Republicans are generally very good at doing this, what we have to learn to do is connect the dots, not in a fashion that says, oh, look at what that sheriff is doing in Florida. Oh, the unemployment rate is no longer one, all right, only 934,000 people look for a job instead of 1.5. I mean, applied for insurance as opposed to the 1.5. And we also talk about the postal service and how do we tie all of this together? Because that is what makes a narrative. What I did in my book, It's Worth It, right, is I had a lot of stories, a ton of stories. And the reason you have stories, right, and I read this I think it was the New York Times or somewhere the other day, people don't think in just individual facts. They think in stories. They think in how things affect their lives. And Republicans are good at that. I mean, they lie to you. They lie to how things affect your lives, but they make you a part of the narrative. They make you fit into the story. And that is why when you hear the Tea Party talk about you're messing with my freedom and all of that, they're an integral part of Americana. It is all about you're dealing with my freedom. You're somehow getting into my home. You're trying to change my inner being. The Republicans have always known how to make it about the person. We have always been good about looking at it in the abstract. The abstract affects everybody and it makes sense. The individual, when they look at it the way the Republicans do it, it only touches on individuals, so they can cater a message on the individual basis. And that's what they're good at. We have to change the paradigm. And the paradigm change doesn't involve just, well, we need to tell stories as well. We need to tell real stories using all those individual facts and turning it into what really and how it really affects the individual. And we're not really doing that. So I talk a whole lot about people suffering in silence and the depression will not be televised. And why do I say that? I talk to people. My wife talks to people. You probably talk to people that are having a very hard time right now. They're now that they're not getting the supplemental monies from the government because they cannot find a job. What are they going to do? They sit down. They have credit cards because the one thing Americans have been given is a lot of credit. And we don't quite explain to Americans that they feel good because they have credit cards with high limits. So therefore, the amount of monies they can spend is a whole lot more. So they feel good about that. And that seems like a positive, right? And the government create laws that allows private companies to give you as much credit as possible. And when you then run into trouble, they take it all from you. They take all your assets and everything. In effect, the creation of permanent paupers going forward. But we as progressives, we want to have a CPB that controls what the credit card can lend you less money so you don't get into trouble and all these things we know is good for you. But we don't individualize it in such a manner that you see that it's not only good for you, but it should really be your requirement of the government to save you from yourselves many times. Just like the masks that you don't want to wear, the mere fact of having somebody tell you, the entity says you have to wear this mask, society says you have to wear that mask. Now that option is not up to you, but by you following that option, you've not only saved yourself, but you've saved millions of others, right? How do we change the message to do the two things? Republicans only work on half. Their first half are lies, and then the remainder is to tell you how individually you benefit from what they're giving you. In other words, not wearing that mask, you benefit from this thing that I'm not sure what it is called freedom. What, freedom to get sick? Freedom to die? not wanting big government that has good social programs, free you of the government because it makes government small. So therefore, if government is small, you don't have to pay a lot of taxes. And wait a minute. But don't those on the lower economic spectrum, when they get a better bang for their buck in taxes, given that the wealthy pay that much more? It's all in how you cater the argument. So now, what's happening in America? Today in Dallas, there are these long food lines, and they finally ran out of food. And of course, Donald Trump is not giving $600 a month anymore to these people that are suffering. They want to work, but they can't find a job. Because he believes if he gives them $600 a month, because that a week, because that $600 a week is more than some of these waiters get or some of these people get because they're abused, they won't go back to work. It's not many of them that applies to, but even if it were many, I would be like, great. That's a backdoor way of increasing their wages, because if a company really needs to have them, they'll pay them their worth. And we're saying $15 minimum is what somebody should make, and that $600 a week is minimum wage. But then they say, okay, but still having them sit down for $15 and just having to pay them $17 to get them back, they're not going to come back. And I say, oh, you're right. Right now we're in a pandemic. Those people, I think that $600 a week shouldn't apply to just those people that are sitting down at home. It should apply to everybody. And who pays for that? We create money for that. But isn't that going to cause inflation? No, it doesn't. Inflation means there's too much money chasing too little goods. And we don't have that problem at all. At all. Economies are man-made, human-made. And if the economy is human-made, we can keep expanding it until we can't, which is what we need to do right now. Some of this may be, so we have to find a way to explain that, and that's how I do it. I do a lot of that in the book as well, when I talk about how to speak to your right-wing neighbor. I make them answer all the questions. And ironically, when you make somebody answer the question, and that applies to a conservative, a liberal, or anybody else, when you ask them a question, and then they have to come up with the solution to answer it, what you generally find that given that the answer, again, especially if it's something on economics and mathematical, etc., when they have to use common sense of their own, not what's given to them to think, their ideas, you will be surprised how closely it mimics that of progressives. When you ask them, why is it again that we are paying somebody 22 cents or 20 cents on every dollar just to pay a bill? Would you do that? No, that's silly. I remember asking a woman at Starbucks one time, I said, hey, I'll pay all your bills for you. How much do they add to? $2,000, $3,000 a month? Okay. You give me $3,600 and I'll pay your $3,000 every month. And what happened to the other $600? I keep it. Wait a minute. You're a thief. That doesn't make any sense. That's what health insurance companies do. How comes you have not made that connection? This woman had not made that connection. But when she had to come up with it on her own, she made the connection, and never again will she feel that private insurance companies serve a purpose other than to rip you off. And a few shows ago, I even showed you that it's worse than ripping you off, because they're on both sides of the equation. They also own the x-ray machines. A lot of the insurance companies own the x-ray machines and the testing labs, etc. So therefore, even though Obamacare says you have to pay out 80% of the monies, or 85, I don't remember how much, they say, okay, we're going to pay out 85% of whatever it costs for the service. And what happens is they just inflate the price at the other side of the equation, so they're still getting the money just under the name of a company that doesn't call itself insurance. We got to tell that. Now, what I'd like Democrats to do going forward is there's a lot that is happening between now and November 3rd. Democrats should be coming on to independent media. Democrats should be coming on to every network station. Democrats should start doing something that I see Nancy Pelosi do. Every time you're asked a question, you have an answer ready to preempt your answer. And after making your answer, you tell them. In other words, why aren't you, Nancy Pelosi, why aren't you negotiating with Donald Trump as far as coming to an agreement? You know, John, it's interesting because Donald Trump doesn't want to give $600 more, and that's why we're not negotiating. So why aren't you coming and making a compromise? You see, I just got a report from Dallas, and these lines are very long. The food bank's running out of food, and these people are short on average $600 to $800 a month. If I go ahead and make a deal with Donald Trump, which one of these people do you suggest I allow to starve? Which one of those people in the line do you think I should allow their kids not to grow up with a healthy diet, which is going to permanently affect their well-being throughout their entire lives? Which ones? Tell me. Which one should I negotiate away? Tell me which one, questioner. That is a question that you don't need to ask me. Why don't you go to Donald Trump and his goons and ask them, why is it that they're willing to starve the children of America? Why is it that they're willing to kill the children of America with forcing them into schools without masks? Ask them the questions. Let them answer. And every Democrat should not only be on mainstream TV, they should be on local networks. They should be on private shows like these, as well as podcasts. They should be saturating these messages. They're all on their way home right now. I use what is it called, Feedly, to see news from all over the world, and I don't hear many of them beating the message into the psyche of America. Now, I want to back up a bit. I'm claiming that these politicians need to be saying that. They need to be saying that so that they will be elected, right? So that people know there's a place for them to go to get elected. But you have a job too, my brothers and sisters that are listening to me right now. Because in as much as we are putting the blame many times, first of all, the conservative lies that has screwed this economy hold the ultimate blame. Those who have allowed it to happen undeterred are the second level of blame. And we, my brothers and sisters, are the third level of blame. Because every time that we've had an opportunity to rid it, we have allowed their messaging to scare us into the status quo. One of the reasons I'm dedicating my life to doing this type of work is to say we cannot allow them to use the status quo and fear to have us make the wrong decisions again. You know, when you have pandemics, when you have great chaos, that is when you can make change. And the reason you can make change, because every change that you make is going to be disruptive. But guess what? The disruption has already begun. Thank you, coronavirus. 160-something thousand people gone. So you see, this is a time, and remember a few shows ago I said, we don't have a lot of time. We have a few months. We have a few months before that starts over again. We have a few months before the metastasis is there again. So let's start really hard working. And we can't leave it just for those politicians, right? We have to do it ourselves. So how do we do it? I mean, when you are listening to a program like Politics Done Right, and by no means is Politics Done Right the only one. There's a whole lot of other people that are trying to do what we're doing here, because we need a lot more. And if you want to do it as well, and if you have the wherewithal and you need an ally to be with you, call me. Because we'll set you up and you can get there and you start doing it as well. To be out there singing the message, talking the message, because we need geometric progression. That's what we need. In fact, I have another book that is like a 10th written about how to become an activist, blogger, journalist, and podcaster and host of your stuff. I'm writing that right now as well. I think I have 3 books that I'm writing right now at the same time. And this one, I may want to get this one out even before I finish the one that should be finished already, which is Make America Utopia. But to make America Utopia, before we can make America Utopia, we got to get the mechanisms to allow utopia to be made. And that's the reason why I may go ahead and do the blogging book next instead of finishing up. The parts of Utopia is already online that those people who are members of Politics Done Right can already go read the parts that are written. But there's a lot more to come. And likewise, but I think we need to get infrastructure built. Infrastructure is you, right? Infrastructure is you sharing, is you going online and sharing truths. You going online and not only sharing other people's articles, but writing your own lead. Let me tell you where I get a lot of ideas from many times. I would be going through my feed, and a neighbor or somebody that I met at Netroots, or just some Joe Blow from New York or a Joe Blow from Arkansas or something would sometimes I think they must be up late at night like I am, and they would just write something on Facebook. No pictures, no nothing. They'll just write a statement. They'll just write a couple of paragraphs. They'll just write 5 paragraphs that is so intense, that is so informative. And I would see that, and most of the time I'll take it up. Sometimes I'll try to find the person and say, hey, I'm going to use this on my show. Is this okay? Oh, please do. Please do. All of us can do that. All of us have our own personal experiences. All of us matter, right? I mean, we all have these experiences in so many different domains that we can use, and we can tell other people about these experiences. Because I tell you what, for every experience you read on Facebook, on Twitter, on Tumblr, on Instagram, or wherever, for every one of those experiences, thousands and thousands and thousands of Americans are going through the same thing. Many of them not really apt at putting it in words. And you just you put it there and you say, me too. And once you start establishing those relationships, people start looking at what you are looking at. What's empowering you? And we start to get that geometric progression where more and more of us become aware and start doing things and start using our own minds. That is how it really, really happens. And a lot of times we don't get it. But anyhow, notice that I said those people who are members of Politics Done Right, they get to read all our books that are written thus far for just their membership. And, but again, I would still love for quite a few of you to go out there and buy It's Worth It! How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors. That's what's on the screen with those of you on podcast. The name of the book is It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors. And, of course, it's by me, Egberto Willies. But what I want to do here is I want to tell you, please become a patron. If you become a patron, you can read all those books online now, right now. So just go ahead and go to politicsdoneright.com/Patreon. Again, that is politicsdoneright.com/Patreon. If you want to support us also via PayPal, you can go to politicsdoneright.com/PayPal. Again, that is politicsdoneright.com/PayPal. We can now take memberships on Facebook, so please consider visiting politicsdoneright.com/Facebook. Again, that is politicsdoneright.com/Facebook. And then, of course, shop at our store. Our store is politicsdoneright.com/store, where you can also get, guess what? Nuestro vaso, or cup. You can get our cups and all that good stuff. Of course, if you're on YouTube, you can hit the $ and give us a super chat and say, yes, we support you. We want you to continue doing what you are doing. And that is how we get stuff done. That is how we really get stuff done. Now, if you want to go ahead and get the book at Amazon, Let me go ahead and get that link for the book at Amazon. I'm going to find it right now. So if I find the book at Amazon, here is the link to get the book at Amazon. So please, folks, bring us back into that top 100 again. So please go ahead and get that book. I appreciate all you guys. And remember, I told you, those of you who become subscribers, you get complete access to all of our books, etc. And what I'm going to see if I can do right now is give you the link to all the books that we have. There it is. It's actually egbertowillies.com/my-books. There it is, right there. If you want to be, if you become a subscriber, all our books are online at that location. Anyhow, continuing, I think, did I have another video for you? I don't think I have another. I have several other videos, but I showed them already. There's one other subject that I wanted to cover, and let me go ahead and get it up here on the screen real quick. You know how that goes. Para ver. I cannot find it. And when I cannot find it, I get fairly concerned. But I won't get concerned. What I will do is I'll tell you that it was all actually about Kamala Harris. She's taken a blunt beating right now from Donald Trump. But luckily, this time around that a woman is running, there is a posse that's been put together that they are going to be not holding Donald Trump and others accountable. They are going to be holding the media accountable in how they're covering women versus how they cover men. Anyhow, it's about that time for me to call all my wonderful watchers, listeners, followers out. So, Brige MCP, welcome aboard. Then there is Deidre Scott. Welcome aboard, my friend. Masticator, welcome aboard. You came on Masticator today to give me hell. I'll talk to you about that in a little bit. Lee Grant, welcome aboard, Lee Grant. Para ver, Rose William, welcome aboard. Norman Reynolds, thank you for being here. Paul Fleming, thank you for being here. I think Dimitri OG, ¿cómo estás, mi hermano? Muchas gracias por estar aquí también. And let's see who else is here. Let's see. Lawrence Sims, welcome aboard, Lawrence Sims. I think I called out Rose Williams already. Let's see who else is here. If you want me to call you out, just drop your name in the list and I'll call you out because I love you all. I love what you're doing. Yeah, Brige. We are nasty women. I am just reading what Brige said. That's not me who said that. That's what Brige said, okay? So please don't send me all those notes telling me how I'm rude, I'm a sexist, I'm a misogynist, or because I'm not. I really am not, and you guys know that. Anyway, Paul Fleming says, well, if we vote the fool out of the White House, the new president will lock the country down and reset this crisis. What he will do is make sure that we do whatever science says. If it's a lockdown, it's a lockdown. If it's a selective lockdown, it's a selective lockdown. But what we will do is finally give the forefront to the scientists with a new president. Fleming says, Trump said the COVID would just go away. No one can trust this fool that goes out and lies to Americans daily. Doctors and scientists first. Exactamente, Paul. You're absolutely right. P. Ro Dusa. He don't like nasty women. He like nasty girls. Hey, why are you guys having me say this? Come on, P. Ro Dusa. You made me say that. But it's your words. Okay, let's continue. Para ver. Rose Williams, considering the way we've handled COVID so far, what's going to happen when we get hit with the next pandemic? In all probability, they will start coming to us more frequently since we aren't addressing the ecological changes that make it more likely for them to develop. Rose, you have the word of the paragraph, the phrase of the day. Because that is something that, you see, the problem with what you just said, Rose, is that's the truth. But a lot of people only see the superficiality. They don't understand that these things have a genesis, and a lot of the genesis is, in fact, the environmental problems that we have. Thank you for stating that. The word of the day. The word of the day. Okay, let's continue. Let's see what else is here. Breach says, you make them start from the bare human we all are and start from there. We all really want the same thing. You know what, Breach? I also kind of talk about that in the book, right? And folks, go get the book. It's worth it. How to talk to your right-wing relatives, friends, and neighbors. I talk about that. That is prescient, Breach, because that is so true. I look at all these guys that come to this room and give me hell. Masticator, Mike Cisak, Daniel Ledoux, all even that's what's the other conservative's name in here? You know, the truth of the matter is we're not all that far apart in the things that we want. We're not. But you have to get away from what the Powell Manifesto did, and that is to create a different language where we're speaking two different languages that are saying the same thing. Except for the things that are not numerical. We generally want the same things. Norman says the health of our children and families, consider the term family values, the mental health crisis affecting parents and children during COVID-19. Yes, sir. Can't argue with that. Rose Williams says not only the environmental pressure, but wet markets in Asia, Africa, and South America are open-air petri dishes. Education about this is so important. Absolutely. P. Ro Dusa says, I talk to right-wingers. They don't want the same thing. I talk to them too, Dusa, and I'm gonna ask you to do something that many of us on the left also suffer from. And that is the lens with which we refract people's words. And we have a tendency to refract the people's words based on what we know about them and what the totality is, right? So what I usually do is I usually start talking about children. I usually start talking about parents. I usually start talking about all those kinds of things, right? Because what happens is a lot of the things that they think they believe start to wash away as you start from those commonalities. Then the things that restrict those commonalities tend to make them do a double take. And that's why I said in my book, you have to tell stories. And when you start telling these stories, that's how the change really start to occur. And you know what? There are some that are not going to change, but the mere fact that you're talking actually in its own right affects change. Because a lot of times, let me tell you what happened. I'm in Starbucks. I don't particularly try to whisper. In not whispering, I'm entertaining others to listen to the conversation as it goes by. And if that person that is conversing with me says something and that something is silly, they're saying it as a comeback to me, but the person that is listening to it sort of fairly neutral or whatever, that person starts to see the materialization of the argument. And in seeing that, I am also talking to them and changing them. A lot of times, not every time, I'm not, there's a certain amount of people that it is deeper it's not enough that they're wrong. It is just enough that they're against you. There's a difference, right? There are a set of people that still have a cancer within them that just want to be against you. You can't do anything about that. That's a pathology. That's a cancer. That's a disease. That is a mental problem. They are mentally unhealthy. And that is something that we have to get around. We are coming close to the end of the show. I want to thank everybody here for being here, for listening to me, for being a part of the messaging, for giving me your info, for giving me your inputs, because all of us make each other. Let me read the last message from Rose. I believe you. It doesn't matter where, but these kind of practices need to end everywhere. Yeah, I get it. Rose Williams, when I read that, I was shocked. Yeah, about the wet markets, etc. Kind of interesting. So again, we learn from each other. We move from each other. And each other don't only mean us on the left. It means all of us. Thank you so kindly for being a part of Politics Done Right. Thank you for being here with me. I know you have other places you could be as well. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you know how I end this baby. I am what? Out! Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.